Hi everyone, thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Dave Rocky. I'm a business development specialist at Mirazon. Today's presentation is going to be given by Michael Patrick. He's a solutions architect and one of the leads on our cloud file sync initiative. So, Michael?
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. As you can see up on the screen, it's got some of my credentials up here. Also, I have up on the screen for you the notes.mirazon.com is our blog center. So if you want to go out and see some of the things that I've written or some of the other Mirazon engineers have blogged about, you can go to that address. I've also included my Twitter address if you want to follow me. And also if you want to follow us on Facebook, there's our address, which is Mirazon Small Business. So today what we're going to be doing is talking about one of the products that Mirazon supports and promotes. As some of you are aware, Mirazon does what's called a best of breed for products. And by best of breed, what we do is we go out and look at a number of different products to see how they match up for our clients' needs. And we don't base it on price, we don't base it on features, but just a combination of all of those so that it's the kind of the best bang for the buck to get what our clients need to do their job. So Mirazon has been working with the cloud file sync, which is made by a company called Anchorworks, and for several months, actually pushing closer to a year, before we actually decided that it would be a good fit for our clients. We use it extensively internally. We use the product to share information with our clients and with other engineers internally. So today I'm going to give you kind of an overview of how the product works, what it looks like, and then at the end, if we got time, we'll do some questions to see how it fits your needs. So that being said, let's get on with the program. So Cloud File Sync is the name of the product that we're going to be talking about. It is called secure file sharing. Many of you are familiar with a number of the other products that are out there on the market. And those are things like Dropbox and SugarSync and OneDrive and a number of other different products that are out there. So we'll talk about some of those as we go through this, and I'll give you some of the pluses and minuses on those, and then let you know where Cloud File Sync matches up against that. So, for instance, what is Cloud File Sync? The claim to fame is easily access all your files from anywhere, including mobile devices. For those of you who have used FTP sites or VPN connections in the past, you know it's kind of a pain to do that. You have to log into the FTP site and then download the file, then upload the file and make sure it's put in the right place, and it's a little bit of a challenge to make that work. One of the things that a lot of clients have mentioned to me in the past, and we still deal with, is trying to send a large file attachment to someone. If you've ever had the need to send a really large file and then you put it in your email, you're using Outlook or webmail or whatever it is that you're using, and then try to send it, and then you get a message back that says file has exceeded maximum size. That's how you exceed your file attachment limitations, or what the limitations are. So this overrides that. You can actually send up to a 10 gigabyte file and transmit it to someone without using email. And I'll show you how that works as well. You also have high availability to ensure uptime for the product. Because all of this is syncing directly back to your local workstation, or your clients can access this from a web, it updates really fast, so you've always got the latest update on the product. Real-time sync technology, seamless backup. I'll show you a little bit about that as we go on. Multiple folder backup. One of the downsides of a number of other products is that you can only share a single file. With Cloud File Sync, you can share multiple folders with your clients or with your team internally or externally, and it's really easy to do. So I'm going to show you how to share files and folders and how easy it is to actually make that happen. Secure and manage file sharing for internal and external resources. I can set files up so that they have time limits on them. So I can basically say, you've got 2 days to download a file. give you a number of times you can actually download the file, and at that point it's no longer accessible. 448-bit encryption, this is for the geeks in us. It just basically says it's really high level of encryption to protect your files when they are at rest, meaning when they are sitting on your server, they are encrypted as they're sitting on the server, and also those files are encrypted when they are being transmitted to you. Continuous real-time backup. What this does is anytime you make a change to a file and save it, it's automatically synced back with the source. And the great thing is you have agents for Windows, Mac OS, iOS, and the Android apps. So pretty much covers the gamut of being able to the popular file formats that are out there. So why not the other guys? Because there are other options that are out there. Dropbox is the really big boy out in the market. However, one of the things you need to be aware of is that Dropbox is not really a secure application. It was never designed to be a business app. It was set up to be file sharing and basically for pictures and such with basically homeowners. And then businesses have adapted it because it is a really easy product to use. The downside to it is the lack of administration tools as far as managing it and making sure that the data that you put up there is secure. As far as being reliable, it's a note up there in the middle of the screen that on August 21st, 2012, Dropbox users were unable to access their files for up to 9 hours because their services went down. Now, the other thing is your information is not that secure in Dropbox. It was subjected to a spam attack from the theft of an employee password that basically opened up thousands of accounts when it happened. It's also be aware that Dropbox hosts all of their customer data on Amazon cloud servers. And for those who are in the industry, know that Amazon cloud servers are not quite as secure or as reliable as we would like them to be. You're also putting all of your data in the hands of not only a third party, but really a fourth party. So you've got two different organizations there who are basically handling your data. Google Drive, this is the big one that everybody likes to talk about. If you've been listening to the industry news and talking about the security issues with Google, pretty much anything you put out on Gmail, Google Drive is going to be accessible by someone else. And the reason for that is if you look down in the orange on the screen, there is a line that's in Google's privacy policy. When you upload or submit content to Google services, you give Google and those we work with a worldwide license to use, host, store, reproduce, modify, communicate, publish, publicly perform, and distribute such content. So basically what that tells you is anything you put up on Google Drive, it's not secure. So I don't think I would be sharing confidential information by using Google Drive and their services. Another thing that we probably want to look at is file fidelity, which happens sometimes when you're transmitting a file from one vendor to another. What will happen is sometimes that file will get slightly changed in the transmit. This has happened with OneDrive on a number of occasions. Google Drive formatting, this they say may not be an issue unless you're sharing it with someone who's not using Google Drive. So just be aware that sometimes there's some issues with actually getting a file to go from one file sharing product to another. Encryption as far as security. With Cloud File Sync, when the file is sitting at rest, meaning you've transmitted it or it's sitting on either the private cloud or the hosted cloud, whichever you decide you want to use, those files are encrypted. They're also encrypted in transmit. The only time that they are not encrypted is when it's sitting on your local workstation. So you can also use a different product if you want to encrypt your local files, and you can have end-to-end encryption. You do not get that with Google Drive, Dropbox, and most of the other products out there like SugarSync and some of the other ones. The last bullet point up here on the screen is banks, medical facilities, or other businesses with sensitive data would not want to subscribe to a file sharing service with those terms. In some industries, it may actually be illegal for them to use those products. If you're an administrator and you're going to be looking at how you serve this out to your clients, the great thing about this product is you have private encryption key management. One of the main differences between Dropbox and many of the other products is they all use the same encryption key for all of their clients. With Cloud File Sync, every account has its own private encryption key. So if one of the other accounts in Cloud File Sync gets hacked, it doesn't affect the rest of the organization or whoever else has this deployed. So that gives you a lot more security as far as keeping your files safe. Another cool thing, and this is one of those that I will show you during the demo, is how we can do a remote wipe of the endpoints and mobile devices. Now, when I say remote wipe, I'm not wiping the device. All I'm doing is wiping the data that has been downloaded from Cloud File Sync. One of the other many things with doing the public file shares is they perform what's called file trimming, especially those ones that give you a lot of free storage. And what happens is that means that on a regular basis they run a maintenance, and that maintenance goes out and deletes any of the files that have been deleted or revisions, and you only get to keep them for a limited period of time. With Cloud File Sync, what we do is we give you the ability to determine how many revisions that you want to keep of a file, how long you want to keep deleted or files that have been deleted. And with Cloud File Sync, there's also no such thing as a file getting accidentally deleted and not being recoverable. Both the user and the administrator can always go back out and recover any files that have been deleted. So that's a great way to actually secure your data and to make sure that it doesn't get lost. Universal file access for the end user. I mean, this is across so many different devices because Android and tablets and Apple mobile devices, there's an app that you can actually use to install on those to be able to manage files and to open them. With Windows and Mac, you can actually install an application and manage them from there, and I'll show you a little bit about that. Revised file backup. Anybody that's ever used an FTP site to kind of transfer files back and forth to work, well, the really biggest drawback of that is you open up the FTP site, you download the file, you make a change to it, you upload the file back, and then when you open the file up again, you realize, oh no, I wiped out a significant portion of my file and now I don't have a backup copy of it. FileSync makes that go away because you actually have the ability to do file revisions and as many file revisions as you want to keep. So you can actually roll back to that previous version and be able to recover from all those changes. You can share files with outside clients. They don't even have to be a member of your organization by creating what are called guest accounts. You can actually create a link inside of Outlook if you're using that for your email and use that to share files with outside clients. And guess what? You don't have to worry about that file limitation size that you have within Outlook, because what this does is it embeds a link to the specific file that you're sending to a client so they can go directly to the file and download it without your email server coming up and saying, you've exceeded your file size. So you can also do things like set up multiple folder backup for documents, desktops, and pictures. So if you have the agent installed on your local workstation and you've got, let's say your desktop, you're storing a lot of your files out on your desktop, well, you can use Cloud File Sync to actually back up your desktop and some of your other folders on your local workstation. This is not a replacement for a really good backup, but it is kind of a workaround if you just, you want to make sure that your current desktop is always backed up and maybe your pictures folder. Of course, this is also subject to the limitations of your organization for however much file storage they want to give you to be able to do that. Oh yeah, notice also that no worries about someone syncing their music collection and filling up the server, and that's because file sync gives you the ability to exclude the types of documents that are uploaded to the host. And I'll show you that when we get into the demos. So file access from anywhere. So this is kind of what it looks like on a mobile device or on a tablet. And the icon you see on the screen is if you decide to install this and use it, when you go look at the iTunes Store or at Google Play Store, you're going to look for a program called Sync Tool. And that's the icon down there on the screen that you would make sure you got the right product, because there's a number of different ones out there that make it a little confusing. So this is just file access from anywhere. So here's a look at what some of the screens you'll be seeing here shortly in our demo and what they look like and some of the features that it has. So now that that's been said, how about we just go ahead and get on into a demo and show you some of the things this will actually do. So the first part of this that I'm going to show is on my screen, which you should be able to see now. You'll see that I've got an icon down here on my toolbar, and it's called Sync Tool version 2.10, and it shows just a double-headed arrow. The other thing, if you can tell, is it has a little green check mark, and that green check mark tells me that all my files are synced and they're up to date. If I right-click on it, it gives me some options. Starting from the bottom up, let's do the first one is Properties. So if I look at the properties, it's going to tell me that right now I'm using 50% of my available storage that I have allocated to me. Bandwidth, I can come up and say if I'm on a low bandwidth connection, maybe I'm working from a hotel or from the McDonald's parking lot or such, I can come up and say, you know, set an automatic limitation on my bandwidth so that it'll look at what bandwidth I have available, and if it's not enough, it'll kind of throttle it back to slow the sync process. So I can apply that and it'll immediately go into effect. If I'm in a network where I have proxies set up, and for some of you you do, some of you don't care about it, so we'll just kind of skip over for that. You know, if you got proxies, you'll know how to use them. And then I have the ability to determine where my files are actually going to be stored. And the reason this is really important is if you're using a tablet device that has limited storage, you may be using an external flash drive, or maybe you've got an SD card plugged into it. Well, you can tell it to store those files at a different location. Or maybe you're short on space on your C drive and you want to store them on a different drive letter. This will give you the ability to do that. English, I think I'm going to stick with that one for now. File exclusions. So it's telling me that some files that I've tried to upload, it would not upload them because it's been said in one of the policies to exclude it. And then I can look at the activity, and I've had no activity for the last 24 hours, so that's good. Another great feature of this is, let's say you're using a mobile device and you're out somewhere, and what you want to do is you're going to hook up and use your cell phone to basically get on the internet and do some work. Well, while you're doing that, you may not want to be having all of the file transfers go on at the same time, especially if you've got a number of folders that are shared with, you know, other clients or other people inside your organization, and there's a lot of changes. Because as they're making changes and saving them, those files are going to automatically get downloaded to your folders. So if you want to save bandwidth, you can tell it to pause the sync until you get back on a more robust and unlimited connection. And notice right now all of my files are up to date. So while that's up to date, let's go ahead and go on out here to the web portal. And what I'm going to do is switch over, and instead of using this one, I'm going to use Chrome. Oop, wrong one. You know, some days it'll just do this to you. So let's get logged into the site here. And I'll go ahead and bring that up. So right now I'm logged in as a standard user. So there's a number of things that I do not have access at this point. And I'll show you some of those behind the scenes for the administrator here in a bit. So a typical screen is going to look like this. So we're going to kind of start up here at the top, and the first thing I want to do is look at the shares that I've got. So on the shares, I can see that I really have 3 separate folders right now that are set up. So I've got the Anchor file demo, which is an internal share. I have files that are my shared files. And then I have another folder down here that's for some vendors. So what I want to do is I want to be able to come out here and share some different files. So let's go over here and look at the files that I've got. And under my shared files, I'm going to go ahead and create a folder. And let me clear a couple things out of the way here, make it a little easier to use. So I'm going to create a folder and just call it My Stuff. Now, what I want to do is I want to be able to share these files with someone who's not a member of my organization. So what I'm going to do is go into that folder, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload some files. So really easy. In the middle it says drag files here. So I'll go over to the upload folder, and then I'm just going to start dragging different files into that folder. And this could be for a project or for anything else I've got working with something that's outside my organization or internal. So once I've got them in there, I'll hit upload. And if you look over here on the right side of the screen, you'll see as they start to upload. And all of my files are now there. So I can come back over here to the home screen by clicking the home button. And now what I want to do is I want to be able to share this folder out with someone else. So what I'm going to do is right-click on it and know that I've got by right-clicking I have a context-sensitive menu here that gives me a number of different options. The first thing I can do is I can download that entire folder as a zip file so that I've got all of the files that are in that folder, and I can, since I'm doing this from a web browser, maybe I'm accessing this from not from my laptop, but maybe from a hotel or someplace, and I want to be able to get these on a flash drive so I can use them. I can rename the folder. I can move it to another folder within the hierarchy. But for right now, what I want to do is I want to share it. The other thing I want to do is, now that I have this new menu up, is I want to create what's called a secure share. I want to make sure that whoever logs into this has not only been approved, but they actually have the password to get into the account. So what I'm going to do is say, all right, I'm sharing these files. So today's the 6th. I'm going to give you till Friday to download these files. And I'm only going to share them with specific people. In this case, I've got an email address here, and the message is and you can hear me typing furiously over here. So notice once I typed in the name and went to the next field, that email address dropped down to the bottom. At this point, I have a couple different options. I can say they can upload files, they can delete files out of here. If I don't give them any of those permissions, then what happens is the only thing they can do is download them, and they can only download them until the 10th of the month, at which point they will no longer have access to the file. So what I'll do is go ahead and click Save, and an email has now gone out to that other account. And just to see if it actually worked, let's come out here and go to my Gmail account. And look, an account has been created for you. So I can go, okay. So here's my account that's been created by Anchor. So what I'm going to do to make sure I can get to this one is I'm going to close this window. And then I'm going to click this link so that it will take me to that page. Now, I got to type in my email address. And then I need that password. And notice that this is a randomly generated password. And if I'm doing this as a temporary account, the randomly generated password is fine. If this is an account that you're going to keep up and running for an extended period of time, you can actually go in and reset that password to whatever you want it to be. So here's my outside account, logging into it, and it says, okay, you've got read access, and I want to go, okay, I want to see the files that are in here now. So now that I've got it up, notice that I have the option. I can download everything as a zip file to get it all at one time, or I can right-click on a file and say download it. And notice my file's down here now, and I can say, well, let me go ahead and get this one while I'm at it. So I've got both of those files, so I'm done now. I'll come back into this later, but I don't need to worry about it anymore for right now. So now that I've finished with that, what I want to do is come back over here and log in as myself. Oops. So I've sent the files out, and it's now a couple days later, and I'm wondering, did those files actually get downloaded? So what I can do is come out here under my file report, and I can come up here and look under my shared files, and under my shared files, and I can see that, okay, I've got stuff underneath of my files here. Those have been uploaded, and then I can come over here to activity log, and so it shows where the files were created, but I don't see how do I tell if they've actually downloaded the files or not? Well, I've got another way to do that, and the way to do it is if I check into my email and make sure the email's working. Well, what it should catch up to me here in just a minute is every time that file is downloaded externally, what will happen is I'll get a message in my mailbox that tells me that file has been downloaded successfully. So I can track how many times that file has actually been downloaded. And it looks like my mail's running a little bit slow today, so we'll check back on that here in a couple minutes. So this way you can come up and see all of the activity that has happened in the folder, as far as when files are created, they're deleted, anything's changed on them. You can tell when someone has downloaded a file because you'll get an email back in your mailbox to let you know the file's been downloaded. So that's a great way to track all of the things that are going on with it. So now that we've looked at the activity log, we've looked at the file report, you can see when the files were actually accessed, when they were found. And let's back up now and go into backups. So talked a little bit earlier about being able to back up specific files that were on your local desktop. So maybe I want to come up and say, on my PC, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I go in and back up my desktop. So I'm going to come out here under Users and find my account. And then I can say, okay, anything that's in that files folder, and then what I want to do is once I've got that folder selected, I can just hit save. Now what will happen is as this goes through, what it'll do is it'll go out and look for any files that are in that folder, and then it will back them up to Anchor. And so it'll catch up to those files. There you go, backups. So we didn't find any files in that folder, so I must have deleted them, which is a great thing to do when you're doing a demo. But you can actually back up different files on your desktop or under your user account and pull those files in to make sure that you've safeguarded them. So backing up over here to guest, notice that I now have a guest account that's sitting out here. Every time you create that secure account for the guest and send the information and create the password as a standard user, then what happens is that guest account shows up in here to remind you that you need to manage it. If you're done with that guest account, you can come up and say, I'm done with it, don't want that anymore. Just click it and remove it, and makes it go away. You can always go back out and recreate it again so that you can share the files again. So now for the big piece in here, which is actually the file sharing section itself. So under Files, notice that I currently have 3 folders that are set up in here. If I come down and look back on my anchor tool that's down here on my system tray and click it, and I say Open Synced Folder, this is what it looks like as far as excuse me, as far as what's on my local desktop and what's on the web. And notice that they don't match up because my shared files only exist in the web interface. It does not show up on the local storage. And that's because I can't share files from my local workstation. I can only share them from a web browser. But if I compare the 2 folders, both of the 2 folders will match up the same. Now, if I right-click on a file on the web browser, notice that I got lots and lots of different options over here. I can download it. I can check the revisions of a file. So, for instance, here's a file that I've shared out. So I'm going to look at the revisions on it. And there's been a couple changes that have been made to the file. So the file size has increased, or has actually decreased on it. So somebody made a couple changes to it. The other thing that I can do is I can download that current file, so I can get back a file revision that maybe didn't go well. Maybe I deleted something out of it or changed something and I don't remember what it was, so I can actually go back to a previous version of it. The other thing I can do is I can recover deleted files. So if I have any files that are out here deleted, if I click Show Deleted, notice that here's a file that's sitting out here. It's kind of grayed out. I can right-click on that file and say Restore it. And just that quick, I have recovered it, and notice that it now shows up over here on my local desktop. If I come up on the desktop again and hit Delete, and you'll have to refresh here. And then as soon as I refresh that, it shows you that that file is now deleted out on the web interface. So pretty cool to be able to do that because you don't have to worry so much about deleting files as far as recovering them. Another option for Restore Deleted, and here's the reason for this one is, let's just say you accidentally deleted an entire folder and you want to recover everything that was deleted between a period of time. So you can actually say Restore all files that have been deleted. You can come up and say, give it a start date and an end date and tell it to recover all of them. And everything that was deleted is going to be undeleted and be right back in this folder again. One more feature underneath here is what's called rollback. Rollback is one I'm not going to do right now because it will literally undo every change that has been done in this file folder, or this specific folder only, back to the date and time that I tell it. So anybody remember CryptoLocker, where it went out and encrypted a bunch of your files and you know that it happened on a specific date? You can say, okay, well, I've got 2,000 or 3,000 files in here and I know that everything has been basically had the whammy put to it and I know it happened around this date. So you can come back and roll back everything to a specific date. And that way you can recover from those files having been encrypted and get them all back. All right, so that pretty much covers the file usage for the end user side of the program. There's a lot of different things that you can do in here, but the main thing to remember on this is it's really easy to use. Pretty much you can click on things, share items with outside users, you can share them internally, you can share them externally, and it's pretty easy to manage. It's mostly just point and click to get it done. Now I'm going to show you something as far as file management and how that works. So what I'm going to do is we'll keep these files up over here on the on the right-hand side of the screen shows you that they're on my local machine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here where I've got an administrator account, and then under my administrator account, oops, time me out. I'm going to go into my accounts, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and find my Anchor demo account. So here's my account. It says it's set up on 2 different workstations. I have the ability to manage the computers that the software is actually installed on. And if you look up here at the top of the screen, you see I've got a button that says Download App. So with the Download App, if I am a member of the organization, I can download it, I can install it, and then get the file sync as you see going over on the right-hand side. If I don't want that particular computer able to access the information, I can tell it to unlink it, and what it will do is it will go out and immediately it will remove all of the files off of that local workstation. You know, say it's been installed by mistake, or you found out that the app's been installed on somebody's home computer and you don't want that computer to have the software. If I unlink it, it makes it actually go away. The other thing I can do is, say this user, we have determined that they're gone. They're out the door. They're not going to be here anymore. So we're going to get rid of them. So what I'm going to do is on that folder, so that's the account where I get rid of it. I can look at the, let me get back to the right place here. So what I can come back to is under the shares, which is where I really want to go to, and then under the Anchor demo, I can edit the team share. I can come up and say manage the share subscribers, which is what I want to do in this case, and what it's going to do is show me everybody who has permissions to this share. So right now here's a check mark on Anchor demo. I'm going to remove that check mark, and then I'm going to click Save. Watch the right-hand side of the screen. And I'm going to say Remove the files. Goodbye. All of the files that they had access to are now gone. And it's just that quick. Now, if I say, oops, I made a mistake, I didn't really mean to do that, I can come back over and find that account again. I can scroll back down. I can hit Save and watch the right-hand side of the screen. And then notice there's the Anchor demo folder, and then if you can tell there's a little blue icon on the end of it that basically said it was syncing, and because there's not a whole lot of files that are available in there, it's synced up pretty quick. The other thing I can do is, if I want to give someone access to a new folder, and say it's a folder that I just want to give them access to, they've never had access to it before, I can come in and check that user, scroll down to the bottom, and then watch the right-hand side of the screen again. And within just a couple of seconds, it immediately puts that folder on their desktop, and they now have access to those files, and because it's small, they actually are fully synced up right now. So pretty slick as far as being able to manage file folders and give users access, take access away from them. Now, a couple caveats to go with this. You saw how quickly I could delete files and could add them back to the user's workstation. This is not total protection. If I set it up and the files are copied to the folder, to the file sync folder, then yes, they have access to them. But then if they just take and copy that folder outside of file sync to, say, a flash drive or something else, I can't delete those files. So it is not total protection, but it is pretty good as far as maintaining things on a day-to-day basis. The other part of this is when you're looking at end-to-end encryption for your data, the files are encrypted in transit. So as they're transmitting back and forth, they're encrypted. They are also encrypted on the file server where they are stored at, which is what's called encryption at rest. If you want to really make them protected end to end, you would use a third-party product on the local workstation, either the end user's workstation or the remote client, and do something like BitLocker or DPoE from Dell, and there's a couple other different products that you could look at. So all in all, it's a pretty good way to manage files. The great thing is, as you make changes to files, they are immediately uploaded and synced. Now, a couple different types of files you would not want to put in this folder. You don't want to do databases. Databases are very finicky. For instance, QuickBooks databases, I don't think I would trust sharing QuickBooks through this file process unless you are absolutely the only user who ever accesses that QuickBooks file, in which case you should be fine. The same thing holds true for like Outlook PST files, because every time a PST file from Outlook is saved, it has to resave the entire file, which could be a pretty massive size file. Other things as far as file restrictions, let's look at those. So if I look at policies under the file restrictions, notice that I have a really long list of exclusions. And notice one of the exclusions that we've got in here, which are QuickBooks database files. Some other ones that are out here, MP2, MP2V. So we've got, I think we've got all of the other AVI files, yep, .avi up here. So pretty much movie files, music files, we've gone out and pretty much restricted being able to upload those. We've also restricted the ability to upload executable files because we're not controlling your remote workstation. So it's a possibility that you could have an executable file that could have a virus in it. One of the viruses going around recently has a .scr extension on it. So to protect the system, we've said you cannot upload anything with that .scr. So a couple other things we've got, file system permissions. So say you're working on a document, like a Word document that's in a folder that you shared out. What we've done is set up the ability to, while you have that document open and working on it, while it's in the file sync folder, it will lock that document so no one else can edit it. So that gives you a little bit of protection for it. The other thing we've done is organizational limit is allow users to erase revisions. Notice that this does not have a check mark on it. With the administrative side of this, we've determined that because we control the storage, we're going to determine when revisions get erased on a document. The same thing goes for auto revision. The whole idea of hosting this information for ourselves is to take away those restrictions on how many revisions on a document that we keep. This way, if we want to keep 2 years worth of revisions, no problem. We can also go out and clean up revisions pretty quickly as well. We can control file purging. We can control the bandwidth that's available to the users. So lots of different features and options that we have as far as customizing this. Excuse me. Let's see, anything else underneath here? And that pretty much covers that. So a lot of information there. Notice down here on bandwidth throttling, if you have a busy network during the day, you can actually come up and throttle this as an administrator to say, you know, let file loads happen at a specific speed during the day and then open them wide up at night. So kind of done with that. Let's go back over here to the anchored folder again and a little bit more on the file. So notice I've got my 3 folders that are sitting out here now. And by hitting a refresh on my web browser, here's that other folder that I just added. And if I go look underneath of one of the folders, I can see all kinds of folders underneath of that, and all of these folders will have different files in them. So we can have lots and lots of data available to us. If I come back over here and look now, let's see what I'm now using 50.4% of my 200 gigabytes of available data. So I still have lots of data that I can store out here before I run out of space. And let's see, anything else we need to cover over here to make sure I got everything taken care of? Getting back to your files, notice there's a house up here at the top. That's to get you back to home, so that gets you back to your main screen. Come on, go back. No, that's because I've added new files to it. So I have lots more folders that have been added to my account. So that pretty much wraps up our demos. What I'm going to do is open it up for questions for anybody, and if there's something I can show you in the last few minutes we got left, we'll cover that. And so, Leah, do we have any questions?
Yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to type them in the question box, and we'll be more than happy to answer any that you have.
All right, while we're waiting to see if we've got any questions, what I'm going to do is come back over and do a little cleanup. And the question just came in is, how do you pay for it? And that's an excellent question, Tom. The cloud file sync product is basically purchased through Mirazon, and this is what's called a channel-only product. It's kind of like a lot of cases where you purchase your antivirus or some of your other products, in that you purchase the product through us. We will set it up for you. We'll train you on how to use it, and then there's a monthly recurring fee for that, and it's a month-to-month agreement, so there is no long-term commitment to it. You decide you want to use it 6 months, and you don't want to use it anymore, we just basically turn off the account and delete all the data out of it. All right, I think I got another question in here if I can get to it. And the cost, there's two different methods to this. The first method is what's called the hosted model, which is you don't need to provide any hardware, any software, anything else. And that is, if you've got more than 5 users, it's $20 per user per month. And what happens with that product is it's what's called a hosted cloud model. And you don't have to have any hardware installed on premise. That you go with the AnchorWorks servers that are up in the cloud, and we create an account for you and manage everything through that. If you go with what's called the private cloud, which means you have a local environment and you're using if you have Hyper-V servers or VMware servers and you can stand up another file server, then you can manage it all through that, and it's $13 per month to use it. And if you're sharing files with people outside of your organization, there is no cost for them because they're using what is called a guest account, and the guest account is no charge. The only ones that you actually pay for is if you have the clients the ability to download the file sync app, in which case that's where you pay the fee for that.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay, if no more questions, we wrapped up a little bit early on that. Thank you all for attending and hope you enjoyed the webinar. Oh yeah, it's just one more thing, and it's just so you know, we're switching over here to a different screen for you, is all of the attendees that stayed around to the end we're actually going to be doing a drawing for a tablet computer. And that drawing will be done when? Oh yeah, they're going to actually put all your names in a pot and do it right now. So if you want to bear with us for just a minute, we're going to write all of your names down on a piece of paper. We're going to put them in a pot, and then I'm going to reach, actually I'm not going to reach in and draw it. I'm going to let somebody else draw it. That way whoever does win can thank the person that did the drawing. The ones that don't can't blame it on me. So bear with us here for just one moment. And I'd cue some Jeopardy music, but I don't have any. And the drawing is Ryan Cornell. You've just won a Dell tablet. One of our lovely stage members here will be contacting you to make arrangements for you to get that.
Congrats, Ryan. That's going to conclude our presentation for today. If you have any questions about Cloud File Sync or anything else, feel free to reach out to Mirazon anytime. You can email me directly at david.rockey, R-O-C-K-E-Y, at mirazon.com. And I'll also be sending some follow-up to you after this presentation. Thank you all so much.
Bye-bye.